President, Democrats are already calling you the fraud czar. What's your reaction to that title? And then second, given
I like
your past skepticism of foreign adventurism, are you completely on board with the current war in Iran?
So I like fraud czar. It's certainly what we're going to do. And look, we have to do it. As the president said, this is a problem that has festered in this country for far too long, and far too few people have actually wanted to do anything about it. That's what makes this administration different, is that we actually tackle the problems the American people have been confronting. So I'm very happy about it. And look, I think that I know what you're trying to do, Phil. You're trying to drive a wedge between members of the administration, between me and the president. What the president said consistently, going back to 2015, and I agreed with him, is that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. We have taken this military action under the president's leadership. I think all of us, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, should pray for its success and pray for the safety of our troops. That's the approach that I've taken. Make it as successful as possible.
So there's no hesitation, given your past statements, with the current operation?
What do you mean there's no hesitation with my past statements?
Given your skepticism of foreign adventurism, you were a critic of the global war on terror previously.
Well, I think one big difference, Phil, is that we have a smart president, whereas in the past we've had dumb presidents. And I trust President Trump to get the job done, to do a good job for the American people, and to make sure that the mistakes of the past aren't repeated. Absolutely.
Thanks, sir.
Look, JD's been great, but here's the simple thing, and I have, some people, I don't want wars. I want wars less than almost anybody. Peace through strength. But you know what? I've watched Iran for a long time. I've called them out 20 years ago when I was a civilian that liked watching the world. And they're violent, vicious people. The leadership, violent, vicious people. They killed 32,000 protesters over the last 3 weeks. They put out a memo 2 days ago saying, if you protest, we will shoot you and kill you in the streets. And somebody said, oh, there's not that many protests. Well, first of all, there are bombs going off all over the place. But even if there weren't, who's going to do that? Who's going to do it? They don't have any guns, and the other ones have latest in line machine gun, right? And every form of gun you can have. They shoot them right through the middle of the head. They're violent people. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would use it. And sometimes I'll have some of the people that, feel very strongly, like I do about wars. And I say, do you think Iran is violent, and do you think their people are violent? Yes, leadership. Do you think they should have a nuclear weapon, which is massive power? I don't even want to discuss how powerful, because it's depressing. And they said, no, they shouldn't have. Definitely they shouldn't have. I said, and you don't want to fight war? No, we don't want to fight war. So these are naive people that frankly are stupid. If you believe that Iran should have a nuclear weapon, there's something wrong with you, because they would use it the only question is within 1 hour if they get it, or 1 day. They will use it, and they will blow up the entire Middle East, not just Israel. They'll start with Israel, but they will blow up. And you got to see that when they unexpectedly started sending missiles to every country within 1,000 miles of them. I mean, they're blowing up countries that were neighbors, not necessarily some friends. They actually were blowing up some friends. They were blowing up the people that handle their accounts. They're sending thousands of missiles into countries that didn't expect to be in the war because they wanted to take over the Middle East.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live stream, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on Rumble. And special thanks to our moderator, Red Access, for being present with us in the live chat. There are 2 lessons to be learned from this short video, 3 minutes video. It teaches us 2 lessons. One, J.D. Vance's chances for the next upcoming presidential elections in the United States is over. He rejected to distance himself from this war against Iran, despite many rumors circulating, in the press, on social media platforms, that J.D. Vance has criticized in the past the foreign interventions of the U.S., especially when it comes to the Middle East. And now he is sticking to Donald J. Trump, which means when people come to positions of power, they either change for opportunistic reasons, or the people above JD Vance would change him. And it seems that JD Vance has cowered, just like other officials in the US administration who are rumored, and there are rumors about them, that they disagree with this war and they think it is catastrophic. And despite that, we haven't seen much of objections. And in this case, some people, they just prefer survival and political survival, but this is just a tactical survival for JD Vance, because strategically speaking, nowadays there is quite consensus, I would say, a big consensus in the MAGA base that this war is going to be a strategic failure and it's a strategic mistake for the United States. And they have overstretched themselves and their resources and their military capabilities in the region. And this will reflect enormously on the American economy and on the economies of the allies of the United States in this case. The second lesson we learned from this video, the short statement of Donald Trump, is the fact that only 2 days ago, he called the Iranian people vile people. This is what he said. This is how he called the Iranian people. And apparently somebody whispered in his ears and said, President Trump, like, we have a big Iranian diaspora here, and they all support you. They love you. They voted for you. They love the MAGA. They love the Republican Party. And they're celebrating the joint aggression of us with the Israelis against their home country. And we need them for optical reasons at the end of the day. I mean, we need their votes. They're not like that big in number, but at the same time, it's not good for the optics, to call the people that we pretend helping them and supporting them, that they're vile. So that's why Donald Trump made sure during this statement to tell the press that he specifically means the leadership in Iran. The leadership in Iran is vile. The leadership in Iran is criminal. The leadership in Iran is terroristic, and they are exporting chaos in the region. Okay, so under such circumstances, yesterday or in the past hours, Israel declared that they have targeted Iran's security chief, Ali Larijani, and also the Basij commander. So according to the Israeli claims, they have killed Ali Larijani, who was the secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, and also allegedly also killed and assassinated the commander of the internal Basij. Internal Basij is the internal police, basically. His name is Gholam Reza Soleimani. However, the Iranian side has not yet confirmed or denied these allegations, although I would assume and say 99% they have assassinated them. And the Iranians always take their time to declare such assassinations. And in this case, there is apparently consensus among the Americans and the Israelis that the assassination was successful. Now, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, he made this claim on X, and he posted a video declaring the assassination of Ali Larijani. This was on Tuesday, today. Now, as we may know, guys, Ali Larijani would be the highest level killing in this war since the US and Israeli strikes, which killed the former supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, and several members of his family. And this was on the first day of the war, on February 28. Larijani was last seen publicly on Friday. As you remember, last Friday it was Al-Quds Day, and he rallied alongside hundreds of thousands of people in the streets, which Donald Trump said that they were, those are AI generated videos. I'm just checking my smartphone because today I received again 5 copyright claims on YouTube. So whoever is doing it on purpose, going back to the old videos and trying to strike my channel. Yesterday I received 5 copyright claims, which were all solved by YouTube, and today is the same thing. Thankfully, the channel is still intact. So Last Friday, as you remember, guys, during the Quds Day, Ali Larijani, Pezeshkian, Arakji, they were in the streets, basically. They were walking alongside hundreds of thousands of people who Donald Trump called artificial intelligence, and they were all made by artificial intelligence. So he wasn't really taking some serious precautions. He wasn't like hiding in a bunker. He wasn't surrounded by security. We have not seen around him many security personnel. We haven't seen people carrying these suitcases which protect them from such explosions. And they were just walking around and among their people, basically, right? Unlike the clown prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, he has given a speech, I believe, last week in Munich, or 2 weeks ago, or last week in Munich, in Germany. And although he spoke to a big Iranian audience and probably also Israeli audience and others who are sympathizers or supporters of them, so almost everybody was in supportive of him. He was hiding behind the bulletproof glass, unlike the officials in Iran who were just roaming and walking in the streets. So many people want to know who was basically Ali Larijani. Of course, he was a very prominent and key political figure in the Iranian hierarchy for many, many years. And at one time, he led the Iran's nuclear negotiations with the West in 2015. Previously, of course, he was also the Iranian Speaker of the Parliament. And this is just wanted to show you the message, first things first, of Israel Katz, since we spoke about his statement in this case, and this is translated by Reuters.
I have just been updated by the Chief of Staff that the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, Larijani, and the head of the Basij, Iran's central repression apparatus, who was responsible for the massacre of the protesters, were eliminated last night and have joined the head of the annihilation program, Khamenei, along with all of those eliminated from the axis of evil in the depths of hell.
So, Israel is basically allegedly still assassinated Ali Larijani, but also assassinated the head of the Basij, because Israel is a very a good-hearted nation, and the politicians care about the Iranian people. It's not like they have killed tens of thousands of civilians only recently in the Gaza Strip. It's not like they have now forcefully displaced hundreds of thousands of people in Lebanon. It's not like they occupy Lebanese territories, Palestinian territories, Syrian territories. It's not like they have the Samson option to nuke the region and everyone if they feel like their existence is threatened. They're just good-hearted people there, and their policy making is always based on the fact that they have this moral high ground, and they care about human rights, and they care about the democratic values, especially in the region. That's why Israel is a country which exports democracy and human rights, not only for the Palestinians, but also in the region. They never wished harm for the people in the region. That's just something that is to assume otherwise, it's just anti-Semitic, guys, right? I hope people would get the sarcasm here. In any ways, that's why Israel has assassinated Ali Larijani and the head of the Basij. But this is actually incorrect, and I'm going to explain to you with different analysis today posted by different people why Israel assassinated Ali Larijani and why this is going to have serious geopolitical implications. It's going to have enormous implications on how Iran is dealing this war, or how the retaliation, or let's say the escalation ladder, will increase from the Iranian side, and how this will even further harden the Iranian leadership in its aspiration or to end this war, and how to end this war. So under such circumstances, guys, just let's remember what Ali Larijani posted only yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago. Ali Larijani posted on his social media accounts a message, and this was on Monday, and he directed his message to Muslim majority nations, and he wanted to deliver them a message about Tehran's position, reasserting basically that his country is not going to relent in the fight against the United States and Israel. Larijani, of course, appealed to a religious sense of duty for Muslims to stand together. And he told them basically that, guys, look, with only few exceptions, Islamic countries all around the world basically have failed to support Iran against what he described as treacherous aggression against Iran itself. So this is the first page, basically, of his statement. By the way, this is a statement in Arabic, but don't worry about it. I have translated it for you. I will just make a little bit maybe. So this is the first point of the message that he posted. He says, this is a 6-point statement by Ali Larijani. He says, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, to Muslims around the world and to the governments of Islamic countries. Number one, Iran has been subjected to a deceptive American Zionist aggression that occurred during negotiations with the aim of dismantling Iran. This aggression led to the martyrdom of the great and self-sacrificing leader of the Islamic Revolution, as well as a number of civilians and military commanders. However, the aggressors were met with firm national and Islamic resistance from the Iranian people. And in point 2, he says, you know that except for rare cases and only within the limits of political positions, no Islamic state has stood by the Iranian people. Nevertheless, the Iranian people, with their strong will, were able to suppress the attacking enemy until it has now become unable to find a way out of this strategic impasse. In point 3, he said, Iran is continuing on the path of resistance in confronting the greater Satan and the lesser Satan. This is in his own expressions, meaning the United States and Israel. But is the position of some Islamic governments not contradictory to the saying of the Prophet? Whoever hears a man calling all Muslims and doesn't respond to him is not a Muslim. So what kind of Islam is this? So basically he's saying, like, there is a saying for Prophet Muhammad that whoever hears a man calling all Muslims, like he needs a help from other Muslims, and these people do not react and don't help this Muslim, then they're not really Muslims. So that's why he's asking here this rhetorical question and says, what kind of Islam is this that you guys believe in, right? And then he goes further in point 4. This is point 4. And he says, some countries have gone even further than that, saying that Iran has become an enemy to them because it targeted American bases and American and Israeli interests on their lands. Is Iran expected to stand idly by while American bases in your countries are used to attack us? This is a flimsy pretext. The confrontation today is between America and Israel on one side and Iran, the Muslim nation, and the forces of resistance on the other. So which side will you stand with? Ali Larijani asked these Arabic and Islamic countries. He tells them in point 5, think about the future of the Islamic world. You know that America has no loyalty to you and that Israel is your enemy. Pause for a moment and reflect on yourselves and on the future of the region. Iran is sincere in advising you and doesn't seek to dominate you. Then he ends with point 6. He says, the unity of the Islamic Ummah, if achieved with full strength, is capable of guaranteeing security, progress, and independence for all. Assalamu alaikum, a servant among the servants of God, Ali Larijani. You know, And whether you agree with the Iranian position or not, whether you agree with the Iranian foreign policy or not, but the fact that these Persian Gulf monarchies, or the Gulf monarchies in the Persian Gulf, basically, they possess enormous leverage vis-a-vis the United States. If Iran, after 40 years of sanctions, siege, wars, battles, sectarian conflicts, proxy wars, all sorts of, let's say, animosities against Iran. If after 40 years of all these type of campaigns against Iran, and Iran is still capable of holding leverage against the United States or vis-a-vis the United States, what is the excuse of the Persian Gulf monarchies, basically, who possess even more wealth and even greater economic and financial wealth than Iran itself? What is the excuse that Iran, under 40 years of sanctions, Iran is capable of building a nation state, capable of building a strong army, capable of basically protecting its sovereignty, capable of deterring its enemies and fighting back and retaliate against them, and try to build a national economy basically under such circumstances, despite the fact that the Iranian economy is suffering a lot due to the sanctions and, of course, some of the mismanagement, the domestic mismanagement. But the bigger part is that Iran is living in dire economic situation due to the sanctions. And despite that, they have built an enormous state institutions in their own country. And they have built and studied and developed and invented technologies. They have assembled weapons, and they have their own nuclear program. So what is the excuse of these Persian Gulf countries who possess more wealth and they cannot produce a single thing in their own countries? What they do basically is just import and import and import from the American and Western and others, basically, products. So what Ali Larijani is telling here to the Persian Gulf countries is that we are not seeking to dominate you here. We can cooperate together and we can grow together when we have enormous wealth, and we could use this enormous wealth as leverage, not only vis-a-vis the United States, by the way, but also other emerging powers such as China and Russia. We can become a relevant player in the international scene. And he's telling them, guys, look, rest assured that they don't like you. They still see you as enemies, but they also see you as a milking cow, that you have all this enormous wealth that you invest in American and other Western and also Israeli economies. You uplift their situation by buying their products. Meanwhile, we in the Islamic world, we can do this ourselves. We can become advanced technologically. We can become advanced again economically, and we can become relevant on the international scene. Name one country in the Arab and Islamic world who is seriously relevant nowadays except for Iran. And I'm saying this without any endorsement for the Iranian, let's say, political system. It's just an objective fact that everyone in the region, they do their calculation when it comes to how to deal with Iran, but nobody cares when they speak about other countries. If you remember in the past how Donald Trump has spoken about Saudi Arabia like they are a milking cow, basically, and he made fun of them. And that's when he told the audience the truth about how he sees and perceives these Persian Gulf monarchies, basically. That for him, they're just a cow you milk, you suck their money, you invest it in the United States for your own benefits, and then you promise them protection. But protection from who? Protection from who, basically? Now, will the United States protect these countries against Israel if Israel expands under the Greater Israel Project? The answer is no. When Israel bombed Qatar in order to kill some Hamas officials there. Has the United States fired its air defenses? No. Nowadays, in Qatar, we can see that the Americans are operating their Patriot systems and their THAAD systems and other air defenses against the Iranian drones and Iranian missiles or rockets. But why not when Israel bombed them? Which means the United States will not protect this country from Israel. And the other candidate for to become an enemy of these countries is Iran, right? This is what they're trying to sell to the public. But let's be realistic, my friends. All these Persian Gulf countries, in exception of Bahrain, they are overwhelmingly populated by Sunni Muslims. And this Sunni world is over 1 billion people all around the world. If Iran dares to attack any of these countries, let's say ground forces occupation like Israel does, rest assured tens of thousands of multinational jihadists will come from all around the world to fight against Iran. So even demographically, it is impossible for Iran to occupy these places and keep its occupation without sectarian wars and conflicts and like complete chaos and instability in the places that they would allegedly occupy. So even if we assume that Iran has, let's say, bad intentions and they want to expand in the region militarily, they cannot really do that. They don't even have the power and the means to do that. Yes, of course, Iraq also has a big Shia population. All I'm saying is the Shias are a minority in the region. They're not the dominant Islamic sect anywhere in the world. Shia is just a minority sect. So, in my opinion, Iran doesn't even represent this threat against the Saudis or the Emiratis or the Kuwaitis or all these countries. And therefore, all these American bases in these Persian Gulf countries, what's the purpose of them? The purpose of them is to protect Israel, firstly, because they have all these technological means to give early signals of the Iranian missiles coming from Iran to Israel. And then they are becoming a reason for Iran to hit these military bases when the war started against Iran, because they're using these military bases as starting point again for the aggression against Iran. So instead of protecting these Persian Gulf countries, it just became the opposite effect. Now that the Persian Gulf monarchies are the ones being hit and the Americans aren't able to protect them. So what's the use of this serious asking just this really serious question? What's the reason for the Americans, for these Persian Gulf monarchies to continue on this approach and to double down on this approach? That there is no other way, that's the only way, that your only cover is America? I think these countries have enough wealth to be able to produce and become sovereign and become national countries and protect themselves. Why would they rely on American forces to protect them? It's just beyond me. I don't know if this person is being serious or not. Why is Kevork so negative? Does he not know that the Mahdi reappeared? Yeah, maybe he reappeared in your dreams, my friend. So now, with the assassination of Ali Larijani, I will show you a few analyses about this case, and I think they are important to share with you the regional, first of all, local and regional implications and geopolitical implications of assassinating Ali Larijani. So this is by Ziad Abu Zayyad. He is a Palestinian PhD candidate. He works for the War Studies and King's College. He says the reported assassination of Ali Larijani appears to be a calculated operational move, likely attributed to Mossad, and should not be understood as an isolated incident. Rather, it signals the beginning of a broader phase that may unfold in the coming days. aimed at obstructing any potential de-escalation or exit strategy. This is what happened, my friends. And you will see there is a consensus now among the serious experts that this assassination of Larijani aimed at obstructing any potential de-escalation or exit strategy. This operation serves multiple layered objectives. First, it is a clear act of psychological warfare targeting a figure deeply embedded within Iran's political and strategic architecture. Second, and more importantly, it contributes to deliberately expanding the scope of confrontation. By removing a key actor like Larijani, the internal base within Iran becomes more unpredictable, making it harder to anticipate or contain Tehran's response, especially within an asymmetric warfare framework. From this perspective, the logic appears to be the following. If Israel assesses that it cannot decisively weaken the Iranian system through direct vertical escalation, and if there are concerns that the US may shift its position or reduce its level of backing, then the alternative strategy becomes the controlled amplification of chaos. In other words, responding to perceived instability not by containing it, but by intensifying it further. This suggests a transition from targeted deterrence to strategic destabilization, where increasing uncertainty itself becomes a tool of policy. And then we have our friend of the show, of course, Elijah Maginier. He said, in 2020, the United States assassinated General Qasem Soleimani. What followed was not a collapse, but an unprecedented surge in activity from Iraq and from Iraqi and Lebanese resistance groups. In 2024, Netanyahu eliminated Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah along with most of Hezbollah's first and second tiers of leadership. Yet, Hezbollah didn't disintegrate. It rather regrouped, held its ground, continued to fight, and took the initiative against Israel in the last weeks. Netanyahu can no longer capitalize on his target assassinations. Sayyid Ali Khamenei was also killed at the outset of this war. Even so, Iran absorbed the shock, reconstituted its leadership, and continued to operate without interruption. This pattern exposes a strategic illusion. Decapitation strikes generate headlines, but not victory. Systems built for continuity do not collapse with the loss of individuals. Faced with unmet war objectives and mounting criticism, Netanyahu and Trump are leaning on high-profile assassinations to project success. But how long can symbolic kills substitute for strategic results in a war marked by unclear direction and flawed planning? Another great analysis comes from, he's not friend of the show, Trita Parsi. Trita says, why did Israel target Ali Larijani, and what are the implications if it is confirmed that he was killed? He says, I see three potential motivations behind the assassination attempt. First, Israel is trying to literally kill off Trump's off-ramps. Larijani was not only a figure within the regime who had emerged as the chief consensus builder, but also kill off Trump's off-ramps literally. This is literally someone who favored talks with the US and who could build consensus within the system for an Iranian off-ramp at some point. Larijani also favored de-escalation with the GCC states and supported Pezeshkian's message on that point. There had been some efforts by Larijani to speak directly with senior Trump officials in December, for instance, to prevent the war. The Israelis want the war to continue to degrade Iran's military capabilities further, to shift the balance in the region in Israel's favor for years to come. They have fought for more than 2 decades to get the US to go to full war with Iran. And having finally achieved that goal, they don't want Trump to cut the war short. Without figures like Larijani in the Iranian system, Trump's pathways to ending the war just got even narrower. 2, the US-Israeli strategy may be shifting back to regime decapitation. The reason for this is that it is becoming increasingly clear that reopening the Strait of Hormuz militarily is simply too risky, and there is no international coalition willing to support Trump. But the straits must be reopened from Trump's perspective because of the impact on energy markets, which eventually will impact gas and food prices in the US and push Trump's own base to turn against this war. But if he cannot open it militarily, then the original idea of regime implosion may prove another path. As such, the killing of Larijani may have been seen as a second bite at the apple. The first bite, the assassination of Khamenei, didn't yield results, but a few more assassinations of key figures may, the thinking would go. Third, opportunity. The assassination may have also simply occurred because the opportunity presented itself rather than having been motivated by either a shift in strategy or a sabotage effort by the Israelis to kill off Trump's off-ramps. Either way, while this undoubtedly is a significant tactical blow to the Islamic Republic, it is difficult to envision it considerably impacting Tehran's war execution. Plans for these eventualities had already been established during the June war. Moreover, when relatively moderate voices have been killed by Israel, they have more often than not been replaced by a younger generation of more hawkish voices who opposed Iran's policy of strategic patience, who opposed the June ceasefire, and who currently oppose any de-escalation or ceasefire. Whether this was Israel's intent or not, the most likely outcome, nevertheless, is the destruction of potential off-ramps for Trump. Another person, I'm sharing with you guys different analyses because I think those are very important ones. This is by Mohammed Saifuddin. He's a director general at it's an economical think tanks or a forum in Lebanon itself, and he has made some important points here, and I think it deserves sharing it. He says, targeting Ali Larijani is Israel's explosion in response to Trump's withdrawal attempts from the war. And then, in parallel with targeting the Basij commander, it is an attempt to demolish the security and political dams in front of mobilizing the domestic front and Mossad agents and Western intelligence agencies once again. Netanyahu insists on striking this point specifically. He chooses the timing whenever Trump gets closer to the exit he desperately needs to escape. Larijani's importance at this timing is that he represents the political leadership capable of crafting a realistic agreement for the post-war era, when Tehran decides it is ready to end it, and when Trump reaches the conviction that he is unable to bear the historical economic repercussions. The Israelis are telling Trump through this targeting, there is no leadership to negotiate with, continue the war. He says, I believe that the information available to the Israelis about Larijani is predetermined, and that other Iranian leaders are security exposed and awaiting the opportunity or appropriate timing for the Israelis to target them, as he announces that he has steps that help the opponents to move. And he meant by this statement, which Netanyahu made last week, targeting the most prominent political leaders like Larijani. But in contrast, I assess that this will not have a substantive impact on the war's outcome in the field. This is a war whose result will not be determined by assassinations, no matter how large, and it is the one that began with the greatest assassination. And Trump was surprised by the reaction it provoked. We're talking about an open war on probabilities you cannot imagine, but it is between two limits: chaos in the Gulf and the collapse of the global economy, or Trump's retreat to the realistic limit in the face of these insane probabilities. The world is led by figures who know no more than 300 words of language that they repeat. Beautiful shoes, wonderful curtains, I love so and so, I don't like so and so, you are a bad journalist, we will eliminate so and so, I control the oil there. And the war devours philosophers, spiritual leaders, and symbols in their countries. But in all cases, it is a war of long distances, and its broad economic direction is taking the Arabs and Iran toward cooperation with China. And the war itself may displace American hegemony from the region. Everything will become clear in the end. Our friend Ali Alizada, who, by the way, was on our show. Please let me know if you want me to invite him back, guys, to the show. Ali is a great mind, in my opinion. And another person whom I promised you to get on the show, he responded and he will come to the show after Ramadan. Ramadan will be over in 2 days, so hopefully next week. Ali Alizada says rumors of Larijani's assassination, if true, would be terrible news. Far more for the US and Israel than for Iran. The assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei, as the world witnessed, backfired immensely for Washington and Tel Aviv, ending Iran's strategic patience and shifting it from defensive to offensive. If a pragmatist like Larijani is also targeted, he will be replaced by someone more resolute and steadfast in defending Iran. That would only strengthen Iran's resolve and set the stage for a far more determined confrontation. It is striking how the US and Israel insist on repeating their own mistakes. Well, probably that's what the Israelis want anyways, as I explained in this. They want the escalation to reach to historical rooftops. And they are too determined to change the reality in Iran, even if that means to go the path or take the path of a nuclear war or nuclear strike. And this is something that in yesterday's stream I discussed David Sachs' warning, and we have to take his warning seriously, that if Israel is hit enough and weakened enough, they will consider a nuclear strike against the Iranians. So, guys, don't take all my words, right? This is not like just ordinary. Those are not ordinary analysts, by the way. Those are elite analysts, in my opinion, who understand what the hell is going on in Iran. But also check what in the mainstream press are speaking about this war. For example, in the Washington Post, published this yesterday, by the way, on Monday, they say US intelligence says Iran's regime is consolidating power. Oh my God, imagine my shock. They say despite more than 2 weeks of relentless airstrikes, US intelligence assessments say Iran's regime likely will remain in place for now, weakened but more hardline, with the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps security forces exerting greater control over the country. The war costs are mounting, at least 12 billion so far and 11 US troops killed. Iran's vice-like grip on the Strait of Hormuz has slowed shipping traffic to a trickle, creating a historic oil disruption. Western officials and analysts who study Iran said they see little near-term prospect of a regime change and to the 47-year-old Islamic Republic or the rise of a more democratic government. US intelligence assessments issued since the war began predict Iran's regime will remain intact and possibly even emboldened, believing it stood up to Trump and survived. Trump, by the way, has been receiving very sobering briefings on the US intelligence. And I think here there was something that I wanted to also, okay. So they said that it wasn't just see? And by the way, he was not only was briefed, very sobering, let's say, analysis by the US intelligence, he was also told of the likelihood of a more entrenched IRGC before he gave the go-ahead to jointly launch the war with Israel. Now, US allies in the Gulf say they are furious with the Trump administration as the conflict roars into a third week. They started this war for Israel and then left us to face the attacks by ourselves, said a senior Arab official from the Gulf. I mean, I just explained this at the beginning of this show, right? How ridiculous the strategy of these Gulf monarchies is, anyways. In the lead up to the conflict, he said Trump administration officials told allies that any military confrontation would be quick. But now it is clear Iran wants to draw out the conflict to inflict pain on its neighbors. Trump on Monday expressed surprise at the breadth of Iran's retaliation. He said they hit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait. Nobody expected that. We were shocked. They fought back. Well, he also says it's a little bit unfair. I will show you this video where he says it's a little bit unfair, guys. It's a little bit unfair that Iran is striking the neighboring American bases in these countries.
So it's a little unfair. You know, you win a war, but they have no right to be doing what they're doing. But we're hitting them very hard. And today is a big day where we're pounding a certain area that has very much to do with the Strait. And I think we'll get it going very soon.
So it's a little bit unfair, guys, to for America to use this military bases basically to attack another country, and then this another country retaliates against the American bases. Basically, it becomes a little bit unfair, and it's also unfair, right, that Iran has been blocking the Strait of Hormuz, and you can see here Iran's stronghold on the Strait of Hormuz is shaping up to be the decisive factor in the war, roiling global energy markets over concerns that it could remain closed to major shipping traffic from an extended time. Tapping a massive supply of relatively cheap drones as well as a dwindling cache of missiles, Iran is exercising control over who can transit the strait. So Iran's strategy is to hold firm, use its leverage over the strait to force the US to de-escalate and hope Trump doesn't have the stomach for a long fight. Officials and analysts told the press that there are no overt signs of cracks or defections within Iran's power structure. For example, a classified pre-war intelligence assessment by the National Intelligence Council concluded that even a large-scale assault on Iran launched by the US would be unlikely to oust its entrenched military and clerical establishment. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is, by the way, founded in 1979 by revolutionary leader Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, was to safeguard the new Islamic Republic, has steadily gained power in recent decades, including over vast swaths of Iran's economy. So good luck with that, American officials, in trying to degrade the Iranian regime. The IRGC, which was considered for many Western officials as the radical element in the Iranian political and security apparatus, basically has entrenched itself, and it seems that it has taken the lead, and it is the one who is shooting the bullets, basically, and also directing the Iranian retaliation to the directions that they like, unlike what many in this reformist government, the Pezeshkians and the Zarifs, who were trying to deal with the Americans in a diplomatic approach, which we all, of course, advocate for, but it has become, in my opinion, the diplomacy has become like a smokescreen, as a cover that you could use to prepare for war. Meanwhile, your enemy is talking to you and you come and bomb your enemy. And it has been repeated several times with Iran. Therefore, the IRGC, in my opinion, has taken over also the diplomatic approach, especially now after the assassination of Ali Larijani. We will see who will replace him. And I think that the replacement will definitely not be more progressive or less hardliner than Larijani. Larijani was not a hardliner. Larijani was an advocate for diplomacy. And the Americans, at the end of the day, after this war, they would have to go and talk with the Iranians. And now with who are they going to talk? So let's see if Iran will confirm today the assassination and who is going to replace Ali Larijani, basically. Guys, as you're watching this stream, I would really appreciate it because now we have over 650 people watching this live. I would truly appreciate it if you just simply hit the like button, thumbs up as you're watching this stream. It really helps this channel and the algorithms and the growth of this channel. I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So I will move a little bit to less serious, let's say, it's a less serious, it's serious, but still a little bit sarcasm and fun, despite the misery and despite the destruction that is being inflicted upon the Iranian people. This is the Iranian Foreign Minister Arakchi, by the way, is trolling, basically. He's trolling, I would say, here. The people who are asking about the Strait of Hormuz, and he says, Hormuz is only closed for Zionists.
They are asking other countries to come and help them so that the Strait of Hormuz remains open, which, of course, from our perspective, it is open. It is only closed to our enemies, to those who carried out unjust aggression against our country, and to their allies.
So Strait of Hormuz is open, guys. If you believe that. It's only closed for the enemies of Iran, which is, in this case, every country helping the United States carry on these attacks. And this, of course, includes the Persian Gulf countries, which is the most important, basically, countries in this choke point where they want to export their energy resources and they cannot. This is the most important. You have the Europeans, you have the other pro-American countries in Asia, for example. So I found this meme a little bit funny and hilarious today on X. People are really creative with these memes. And this is Arakchi, basically, if you remember this interview, I think it was on MSNBC or some American channel when they asked him if he is afraid of the American boots on the ground in Iran. And he said, no, we're waiting for them. And then he gave this smirk, this smile, right? And the people make this meme say, is there a problem with the war you ordered? Another funny video I saw today. I mean, it is funny, and the accent is also like I'm not making fun of the accent itself, but the accent is still funny in my opinion. And I truly love this accent. My Iranian friends also speak like this, and still it's funny. And you can see how he's trolling the Trump administration here. This is one of the spokespersons of the Iranian military.
A message to the President of the United States. The outcome of war cannot be determined by tweets. The result of a war is determined in the field, the very place where you and your forces do not dare to approach, and you can only talk about it in your tweets. It's better to name this war as epic fear instead of epic fury.
It's better to call this war epic epic fear and not epic fury. By the way, just before I started the live stream, there is important news coming from the United States. This is posted by Joey Kent. Joey Kent has been the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. So he just submitted his resignation, as you can see. I will just put his statement here. Director of National Intelligence of the National Counterterrorism. This is the, by the way, the department of Tulsi Gabbard, and he used to work for Tulsi Gabbard, and he submitted his resignation today. And this is what he says. President Trump, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. I support the values of the foreign policies that you campaigned on in 2016, 2020, and 2024, which you enacted in your first term. Until June of 2025, you understood that the wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation. In your first administration, you understood better than any modern president how to decisively apply military power without getting us drawn into never-ending wars. You demonstrated this by killing Qasem Soleimani and by defeating ISIS. Early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that should you strike now, there was a clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into a disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women. We cannot make this mistake again. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife, Shannon, in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war who serves no benefit to the American people, nor justifies the cost of American lives. I pray that you will reflect upon what we are doing in Iran and who we are doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further toward decline and chaos. You hold the cards. It was an honor to serve in your administration and to serve our great nation. Joseph Kent, Director of the National Counterterrorism Center. And I didn't know personally that his wife was killed in Syria by ISIS, by the way. And this is something that our friend Max Blumenthal mentioned today on his account. He says, Joe Kent, a special force veteran who lost his wife to ISIS in Syria after military leadership sabotaged U.S. withdrawal, is the one Trump NatSec official with the courage of his convictions. Kent, who ran for Congress to make peace nonpartisan, explicitly blames Israel for manufacturing the war in which his wife, Shannon, was killed, and for doing the same in Iran. Imagine he is also blaming the war in Syria only on Israel, which is my position, by the way. He appeals to Trump to reflect on what we are doing in Iran and who we are doing it for, a clear reference to Israeli control over the administration. I know many admin insiders feel the same as Kent, but are too intimidated by Trump and the dark forces driving this force. Until today, by the way, I have forgotten, like he basically also turned out to be following me on X, Joey Kent, and I hope that he has been also seeing my posts about Syria and the U.S. Support for the Al-Qaeda regime there, basically. Yeah, like, I don't know, maybe I should send him a DM. What do you think about this, guys? Should I send him a DM and ask him if he would like to maybe come to our show? I'm not hopeful like he would accept it, but that would be extraordinary to hear his thoughts about why does he think that the war in Syria was about Israel, for example, and how his wife has been killed. You know, I'm truly, I truly, in the deep senses in my heart, I do not feel any animosity or hatred toward any American soldier, even though they have been on the Syrian territory for the sake of Israel in this case, not to fight ISIS, but to make sure that this ISIS-linked and Al-Qaeda-linked regime come to power. But when people come clean like this and they speak the truth, I'm ready to just, overcome all these things. Otherwise, we will end up just with a vicious cycle of violence and hatred against each other. Therefore, I would express my sympathy with him, and I would feel sorry for losing his wife. Nobody wants to lose his wife, especially under such circumstances, and especially not by ISIS, right? So if you think it's a good idea, do you think he would accept it? I will definitely send him a message, and let's see. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard also follows me on X. I mean, these people are watching what we write, you know, and when it comes at least to Syria, and I hope that Tulsi Gabbard would be also now follow and submit resignation from this administration without, let's say, resignations in the American administration. And this administration will continue in its approach, and they will think that they are surrounded by solid support, especially by figures like Tulsi Gabbard in this case. And I have made this very clear for him to Kent, and I said, God bless you. You may lose the job, but you want the people, and people are the ones who bring officials up and down. This will end up badly for Trump. Let's see. Guys, our moderator is kindly asking you to leave a like, thumbs up, as you're watching this stream, as we have reached to the end of today's stream. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate you all, whether you watch this on YouTube or on Rumble. If you like this stream, please hit the like button, subscribe to Syriana Analysis, only if you can and only if you want to go further and support this independent work. You can become a patron. The link is scrolling on the screen. Patreon.com/Syriana Analysis. If you don't like using Patreon, there are different other means in the description below. You can support this channel. Peace be upon you guys and upon your families, and I will see you tomorrow. Salam.